Hey gang, welcome to Inverted Pursuits. So this past weekend we actually had the launch of VIPER. VIPER completed its first launch and returned mostly intact and undamaged. But before we get too far into discussing what happened during the launch, let's go ahead and watch the launch and recovery that I filmed, and then we'll discuss what happened afterwards.
Alright, battery is live in the controller. Alright. Go! And 3, 2, 1.
Leave it. Alright, so we flew through some trees, but it actually looks like we came out the other side. I'm gonna guess it fully tore the rocket apart. I would bet there's no fins and potentially no launch lugs left on it, but it does look like the parachute successfully deployed on the other side. So let's take a look at it when we get up to it. All right, so yeah, we landed nose first in the dirt.
Oh yeah, we're fine.
Oh yeah, it tore my fins off. Oh, they busted out the back. Oh wow, those are in pieces.
But it ejected the parachute.
It did successfully eject the parachute properly.
Yeah, that's impact.
You can see the orange paint scraped off. Oh, wow.
Oh, there's the sea.
Yeah,
That thing ripped through the trees.
I think you were still under power when you hit the ground and then it ejected.
Yeah. Well, I think we were in coast fully under.
Didn't break the parachute cord.
Look at that. Hey, I win that one. All right, let's see if we can reload for a round two. Well, unfortunately, with the impact of that, we ripped off the rail guides, so we will be unable to get another flight out of it this evening. But I will work on repairing the damage that was done, and we will attempt to get a flight 2 out of VIPER here in the coming months of summer. Alright, so as you guys noticed, it took off beautifully. All the engines ignited together. The Estes Pro fuses that I used worked beautifully, coupled with my new VIPER control box, or launch control box that I built. The entire thing worked flawlessly on that end. It flew through the air, granted not straight up or in the direction I pointed it, but it flew. It flew in the direction I wanted, at the thrust I wanted, well, mostly the direction I wanted, at the thrust I wanted, and it deployed the parachute, it spent the engines properly. The primary problem is that I flew at the wrong angle out over the field, and I flew through trees. So I actually ended up flying, this is the core that flew on the rocket, and you can see I tore the fins off and actually ripped some out the back end. There was one left intact, and oh, I got that one right here. And so this one singular fin is what you noticed I came up on, just one singular fin sticking up on the rocket. And so that was pretty cool just to see that one fin survived. I wasn't too surprised when I'd heard the sound of it flying through the trees. I've got crap falling out of the rocket motors that are in here still. Oops. When I heard it fly through the trees, I was not overly surprised that I lost the engine core. Basically destroyed itself. The downside is that I also lost my launch rail guides, or launch lugs as Estes tends to call them, since it rode on a rail. These broke as it flew through the tree as well, so unfortunately that's why we weren't able to fly it again, as I explained. The biggest issue that I noticed during the flight was that the rocket did not take off at the proper angle. You'll notice that when all of the motors ignite, it actually bends the launch rail over at a sharper angle, and so that's what shot it off over the trees rather than up in the direction I was pointing. Yes, we still had it at an angle, but that was with the goal of getting it to float back with the parachute. But That's the main issue, is that the launch rail bent to a very severe degree, causing it to fly out over the field, and we'll watch a slow-mo of that here real quick. So, unfortunately, that happened. One of the cool things that I noted in the video when I recovered it, is that we actually impacted the ground really, really aggressively. The nose cone is just fine, but even with impacting the ground, it was still able to deploy the parachute after ground impact. As you saw, it was all spread out along the ground. Everything was as it should have been. So the mechanism that I built in here to ensure that you can see that, transfer all of the ejection force of the central E-motor up the body tube, in order to guarantee that I got this to separate and didn't have any issues with pressure and volume. But all in all, this flight went really well. I know that I need to get a better launch rail. Right now I'm looking into using 1-inch extrusion to ride on along with rail buttons. Getting those will cost me a little bit, and it'll take a little bit of time to get a hold of all that. But once I have that, I already have an updated fin can. I'd already printed a couple of these, and this is my most recent version, ready to go, and I can just bolt this onto the bottom of the rocket, put it on a new launch rail when that arrives, and I'll be able to go for Flight 2. Thanks for watching Inverted Pursuits and the launch of VIPER for the first time. Please come back for when we have our second launch, and please consider subscribing. Thanks.